Hey, this is Nicole from Black Woman Black Belt with another Profiles in Badassery. If you couldn't tell, I'm now in my studio. My studio it's needs some work. You may have seen that little bit of paint back there that might, because I'm still testing out paint colors. We have a twofold mission now. You'll see how my area is gonna come into fruition, as well as us interviewing new and exciting people. So, talking about new and exciting people, Milly Malloy is a black belt out of Boulder, Colorado. She is what I would call an everyday black belt. She wasn't an avid competitor like some of the other people that I've interviewed in the past. However, that black belt around her waist is 100% earned, and you'll hear why throughout her journey. We go through from the very relatable reason why she started jiu-jitsu to all of the trials that she's gone through in between to get her black belt. When you listen to her, you will get the idea that she is extremely relatable. She's very down to earth. She has a black belt, and she is a black belt, but she doesn't put on those airs. That's the thing about her that I like. This is probably one of the best interviews I've done. Not that the other people that I've interviewed in the past weren't great, because I enjoyed learning from every single person that I've interviewed. But this is the one where I feel like we had never met before, but we should have, because like we're just talking like good friends. So you get to get into you get to eavesdrop on a conversation. Stick around. Hope you enjoy this interview as much as I enjoy giving it. And hey, let's get it started. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and start recording, because crazy as it is, I would like to get you out of here before the end of like next week. That'd be great. But first thing I always say, like the last time I recorded you and the recording just went all the way just crappy, I'd like to say, welcome, fellow badass. Thank you for interviewing with me. And always the first thing I always like to say is, instead of me trying to say how awesome you are, because like you are who I would call my everyday badass. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Milly Malloy. I train out of Easton Training Center in Boulder. I have been training Jiu Jitsu for about 13 years, I think. 12, 13 years, not exactly sure. Um, I'm a mother too, and a wife, and I don't know what else to say.
And you have a garden that I see, and this is towards the end of the growing season. When is the end of y'all's growing season? Because ours is right.
It's about now.
Yeah,
It's starting. I still have some tomatoes and some chard, Swiss chard, but it's about to end.
yeah.
Um,
Because I was like,
it depends when the snow comes, and it hasn't come yet, but October starts taping down.
okay, well, I always like to, when I follow your page, I usually love to like watch and see what like you have like a crap ton of zucchini, a relative like it's always a bunch of eggplant. I still haven't figured out how to grow eggplant. My eggplant's just like nope. But let's get back to your jujitsu career. You said you started 13 years ago, right? So that
About 12, 13 years. I think 12. I think 12.
12 years is
I started in 2009. I know
2000.
that.
Yeah, that's yeah, because I bought my house too. That's 12. Know that. How did you get into jujitsu? I mean, what led you to try jujitsu?
Air conditioner. So what happened was I had moved to Colorado in 2008, and I had two small kids, and my husband kept telling me to go to this jiu-jitsu academy because he knew a few of the professors that were training at the gym that he was working at. And now where I live in Longmont is like 15 minutes from Boulder. And at that time, I was like, driving 15 minutes. I don't want to go there. I had two small kids, but our rental didn't have air conditioning. And he told me they have air conditioning. I was like, okay, I'm there.
Like, and I'm on it. And I'm on it.
I mean, it's like an hour that somebody would take care of my two kids because at that time I didn't know anybody in Colorado and it was just me, full-time mom. And air conditioning, I'm sold. So I took the kids and they did an intro class. They loved it. And the manager that was there at the time said, would you like to try it? I was like, sure, why not? So I try it and I sign up. And later on, my kids quit 5 years later and I kept doing it. And I think my husband joined a year after I did. So that was the beginning of jiu-jitsu. I always laugh. I say, yeah, it's air conditioning.
Hey, well, now you can beat your husband and all your kids' asses. It's pretty great because now 'cause I saw pictures of your sons and they're really tall. I'm like, they're some big boys.
Yeah, my husband is 6'1", 6'2", and my baby boy who's 17 is about, I think he's gonna be 6'3", and he's actually taller than my oldest one. So
So you had, and how, I remember last time you, like when I look at your pictures and I remember from the last time we talked, how tall are you?
I'm 5'2".
So you just have to yank up,
Yeah, I had to look up to them.
snatch them, and pull
I still look up to them, but I just have to give the Latin mom look. And
that is
it's a done deal.
got that DR, that Dominican, like, yeah. I have one, like I was telling you before we started, like one of my girlfriends is from the DR and like she talked about La Chancla. I was cracking up. And if anybody doesn't know, La Chancla in Spanish is your flip flop. Like that is flip
The
flop.
weapon.
Yeah, it's pretty much a sandal that you can. If you've ever gotten beat with a sandal, yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
But I think Latin moms take it to a whole different level. I mean, those chanclas are smart chanclas. They will follow you until they hit you upside the head.
Yeah. Have you seen the video where? And I'm pretty sure they might have did a little video altering, but she threw it in the air. The girl got hit. It's like ah,
As a child, that's how it felt like.
because they come from around the corner and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
He turns corner, he goes upside down. It's gonna hit. No matter what you do, it's gonna hit you.
You gotta get found by the La Chancla. Yeah. All right. So you started in 2009, 12 years ago. Your babies didn't keep up with it. Um, if I'm not mistaken, on your feet though, they are. Did they ever go back to it?
Yes, my youngest one goes back and forth, and I don't force them to do anything they don't want to do. But he has been doing Muay Thai for a little while now, so that is his thing. I asked if I could do it with him. He told me no. So
Mama. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Can I do it?" Like, no. So my husband is a brown belt. Soon, hopefully, to be a black belt eventually. But so we keep up with it, and the kids have been involved in the academy, and everybody knows them there since they were 4 and 7. So whenever they go to the academy, they're welcome with open arms, and it's fun to see all the kids that were 4, 5, 6, and 7. When we started, and they're still there. They go in and out of the academy, but they're part of the family. So it's very interesting. It's a part that really tug in my heart because people ask about how they're doing and what they're doing, and they're from a distance involved in my kid's life. So it's a sweet thing for a mom.
Oh, cool. That sounds. See, I don't have any kids, so I'm like, that's great. But that sounds great. I mean, I can only imagine that, like, you get to literally watch your child grow up in an environment, and it seems like your gym is a really good gym environment. Um, Talking about your gym, do you teach the kids?
I used to teach a long time ago. Since I was one of the mom too, I would help teach the the classes my kids were taking. I don't teach anymore. I did teach the female classes or women classes and stuff like that, but um, right now I'm not teaching.
Okay, well, hey, teaching, I don't care what you teach, teaching it within in itself is absolutely no joke. It's exhausting. Like that's
I
why.
always think that they need, in general, some mom energy when I see the classes. It's a different energy because you know when to kind of stop or when to push,
Yeah,
and when to stop the nonsense. So sometimes I watch the class, I'm like, yeah, they need a mom.
they get them that look like,
Yeah, like enough.
yeah, don't play. Keep on, see what happens.
And
Um,
at the same time, you bring kind of like that little touch when you see them struggling. It's I don't know. I respect. I have a lot of respect for mom from that. That
yeah,
know when to switch the energy.
mom energy is unlike any energy on earth. I'm just anybody who has children, I have a definite respect for. Like I have a serious respect for moms because I look at my mom and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know how you did that," but I mean that's just like moms are important. Moms are super important. Like
I think it was the best, most fun job I ever had in my life. I mean, raising my kids was just. I mean, it's some tough times, but it has been the most fun, fulfilling, and just fun. I mean, they are pretty cool kids. They're pretty good, cool human beings. So, like if they were not my kids, I would be friends with them.
yeah, well, that's not. Hey, that's a testament to you raised them right. You generally like them as people, so that's hey, that's I don't have anything to add to that because like you did a good job. It sounds like so
50-50. They were good people to begin with. It's 50-50.
nature and nurture. We're not asking. Well, hey, I don't ask questions. I just interview. That's all I do. You said you started in 2009, and how long were you a white belt?
About a year and a half, I believe I was a white belt. A year and a half. Sorry, it has been so long that I'm like,
Yeah, I know. I remember. Same. I started like almost 8.5 years ago. And I'm like, gosh, it feels so short, but so long at the same time. It's really hard to explain.
but when you're a white belt, it feels like a long time.
Yeah.
And then you look back, I was like, that's nothing.
Yeah, until you're not a white belt, it's like, oh, I wish I could go back. Like, yeah, like for me, my thing is I wish I had competed more. I wish I had really did more, like really gotten into technique because it's one of those numbers. Your white belt, that's the frosting. That's like the cake. That is the cake. All the frostings, the sprinkles. That's the blue, brown, purple, black, all of that. But like I people who are like, I'm just a white belt. I'm like, man, enjoy white belt because number one, you don't know what you have right now. You everything is new. Your brain is just soaking it all. Now my brain is a sponge, a very dirty, wet sponge, but a sponge nonetheless. It's like I get concepts now, but it's like it's not like when I was a white belt. So yeah.
I was just talking to a white belt last week, and she had just started, but she was already putting pressure on herself. Like everybody was doing this, and I said to her that the only thing I could tell her was just to enjoy socking because this is the only time that you are okay, just not knowing anything,
Yeah.
and then just really enjoy just watching your body learn something you had never done before. Like you had never done a hip out. Why would you ever know that? Like, why in the world would you even consider doing that? So just to give herself, this is her first month. I was like, just give yourself permission for a couple months to just be there.
A couple
And
months.
well, for her it was a couple months because I could see that she was thinking already ahead.
Yeah. I was like,
And then I said, in 2 months, just revisit what I just told you and then see what is your next goal. If it's to stay there or to or if you want to, add something to it. But I could see the pressure she was putting, and she was just there for a couple of weeks, and I was like,
Like, girl, that-
honey, just enjoy it. Just
yeah,
enjoy it. It's a long journey.
yeah. I'm like that. You putting pressure on yourself. And like that's what I like to tell people. I'm like, white belt is the only time you could suck, and everybody's like, "Well, you're a white belt. You suck." Like if I'm a purple belt now, and if I suck, it's gonna be made a big deal. Like hold that thought. There we go. It's like I'm a purple belt. If I suck at this point, it's not gonna be good. So it's like, and just as like as a white belt, is there anything that you wish you would have done? Because like I already told you, I already ran my mouth on what I wish I had have done. But what would you say as a black belt? Because you are ahead of me at this point. So what would you tell people that are coming behind you? Like,
The same advice that I was giving is because it's the same, is what I needed to hear and I didn't know. It's just to enjoy it more, to take the pressure away of comparing yourself to other people. I know as a white belt, like everybody seems so much advanced and so much better, and they probably were. Um, but I remember seeing people that were so much better than me, and like would learn things so fast, but they all quit at one point and another, and I didn't. So I am persistent, and I am uh, I am stubborn, and I didn't give credit to that, just to being stubborn and not let the lows make me quit. And I think that's what I would tell myself as a white belt. Like, don't worry about being the best, or try, absolutely try and try hard, but I don't know, it's just that extra pressure that we put in ourselves.
yeah,
Like, I would definitely tell my white belt self that it was okay. Another time, like I said, I had two small kids, and I was older than everyone, and not everyone, but most people. And so, it's just kind of looking at the big picture.
yeah. Yeah. It's for white belts. It's not who's best. It's who's left. It's not who's best. It's who's left. Because I'm thinking about all the people I started with, and I'm trying to think how many people I started with are still going. It ain't very many. It ain't very many at all. Like I'm literally going through my Rolodex. Let me think. Not very many. Like not very many.
Especially females.
Like
Females.
females, when I started, I was one of the two only females in my gym, and the other one, she was way better than I was. I ain't even gonna like. I'm not even gonna front. She she would just get concepts, and they would pour into her because she was such a sponge. I was a sponge. I was a wet sponge, but I was a sponge, and they poured into her, and like she kept getting like injured, like it, like neck. She's like, I like to do. She likes to do ultra marathons and super athletic. It was literally, I like to call it like Mozart and Salieri. If you've ever seen Amadeus, I was definitely Salieri. I'm not even gonna front. I was girl was like a athletic Mozart, and I was sitting there just pissed. I couldn't catch up, but at the end of the day, she like her body was not made for jujitsu because you have to be able to take a licking and keep on ticking. Me, I'm like I can take a pretty good beat down. Unfortunately, I can take a beat down, and that's why I've lasted for so long. So again, it's not who's best; it's who's left.
I really think it's who's most stubborn.
Yeah, and stubborn as, oh, I'm stubborn as hell. I'm stubborn as oh, I'm so stubborn. I like ask my friends. I'm like, because my moms were real stubborn like that too. It's like I'm like, am I that stubborn? They're like, yeah. Like, and I feel like that's one of the things about jujitsu. You have to be stubborn to do this. You have to be like, oh, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving. No, no.
You're gonna fall in love with it, and you're gonna fall out of love with it, and then go back into it. It's fluctuate. And I think that's the hard part to understand sometimes,
Yeah,
that you're not always in a honeymoon
yeah,
with it. and that you have to flow with it, and you just have to, just go with it.
Yeah, me and jujitsu are in a serious relationship that has just gone to that point in relationships where we're just comfortable with each other. I'm like, okay, he, he like, it's just like I sometimes don't like it because it breaks me down. But I always tell people if jujitsu was a man, we would have been married with babies by now. Like, it's pretty. But it's one of those things. It's like you have to love the sport. You have to love all of its aspects to really like get into it like we have, right? Talking about getting into it, do you remember that one moment in your jujitsu career where you're just like, this is the best thing ever? Like this that moment where it just everything clicks, you're like, this is it for me. Do you remember when that happened for you?
Yes, you asked me that question last time. I didn't have an answer, and then I thought about it afterwards. Um, and I think as a blue belt, and things started to make sense. And I remember I was just rolling with a teammate, and I got a choke, and he was shaking, and I thought he was trying to get it off, and he was actually passing out. And I was a little scared. I let it go because somebody told me, but I really thought he was shaking off, like trying to escape. And somebody told me, let him go. And I remember that moment, I was so scared and a little traumatized, but at the same time, I was like, oh, I'm able to do this. I'm capable of actually put a man that's stronger than me and bigger than me and into a chokehold and let him, and have that. So at that moment, it was a little bit of both. I was actually very taken back, and at the same time, it was just that realization, like, oh, okay, I don't completely suck at this. I can actually do something.
Yeah, I can't. That's a really good question for myself. I can't even think of, but it's just like once you get into it, like I love just rolling. It's like I was listening to like the Huberman podcast, and they were talking about how it kicks out like dopamine. I'm like, I'm getting that. You get that dopamine hit. It's just like you, and it's like intermittent. It's not every time you roll you hit the dopa, but like and that's what that's what you're talking about is when you hit that blue belt stage and it's not just you getting just pounded into the ground. Like my first year was just getting beat just because it was a sunny day. But like once you get it, once you start being able to really answer people, once you begin to have physical conversation instead of it's a monologue and they're telling me I'm beating you up, yeah, that is where just the joy of it comes in. So we also talked about the joys of jujitsu, and I remember the last time we were talking about like some of the tough things that you've gone through in jujitsu. I forgot what exactly that was. I know it was like you lost either your eyesight or some.
There was two things.
Oh no,
My husband,
that was
got double vision. That's
yeah,
what you remember.
it is okay.
So out of the blues, my husband got double vision, and we didn't know what it was. We went through so many different doctors, and I had two small kids, and it just felt like the world was crashing on top of me, and jiu-jitsu was the only thing that I could do for an hour that I was not thinking and worrying and thinking just about the worst, because this lasted a couple months, so it wasn't like a weekend, that was it. And it was a long process of, after those 2 months, just to get back to where we were at. And I think jiu-jitsu was the only um thing that I had that allowed me to escape the mental wheel of thinking about the same thing, and the same thing, and worrying, and the community itself, just having people care, because we were new in Colorado. This was, I think like 6 months after I started jujitsu. So we were just being in the state for like like 2 years. So, just to have our families were not around. They don't live here. So just to have people that care and even like ask me, or even like there were days that I would just say, don't ask me. And they would just, okay, let's just roll. And just to have that pause of, of life,
Yeah.
on those pockets of just not thinking and just being in my body and not in my mind. Those moments were priceless. Those were life-saving moments.
Yeah, I unfortunately understand. Like when we first interviewed, I kind of didn't get what you were saying, but I'm gonna say late July, early August, my mom was in the hospital with COVID pneumonia, and I'm thinking this might just be it. This I might never be able to see her again, and unbeknownst to the people that I rode with, I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to think about it. All I did was I just go in there and I would roll and I would lift and I would come home because I know I needed to be tired enough to get to sleep. Like I needed something that would knock me out. And I started from the last time we were talking. I remember you said you did meditation, so I started doing a little bit of meditating, like just something to where I had to think about with like guided meditation where you have to think about what somebody else is saying to where I could at least get some sleep because that is rough. And I'm like, people don't understand. I now get what you're talking about. I'm like, that's wild. Like that's insane.
Like, is it will be like a physical meditation. So I've been a meditator since I was 16.
Yeah.
I learned transcendental meditation, and that I told you last time. So I've been a meditator for 30 plus years. Um, and and that practice is my quiet time practice. But then I think jujitsu will be kind of comparing to the physical aspect of meditation, where you're not your thoughts, you're
Yeah.
not
You are
what you're thinking.
you are in the moment or you're gonna get choked out of the moment. So
Exactly,
you have
exactly.
that's where like just physical exercise I feel like is super important for people who are like depressed and it's not the cure. You need to really work through the issue, but like exercise, that movement, especially jujitsu, because it's full on. You're in it, like it is in that. Are you? How just completely invaluable. Excuse me. I'm sounding like I'm choking up. I'm just like literally like I don't have COVID. I don't have COVID. Just throwing that out there. Um, but from there, you were saying that like you said there was two things. The first thing you said was your husband had double vision, and
That
then
was just a hard thing to go through. And then personally, it was an injury. My knee popped, and then I was, I think, blue belt, purple belt. I can't remember. Um, and it took me 6 months to rehab. I mean, I couldn't bend my knee, one knee, more than 90 degree. Like I couldn't bend it backward, and and it was a very painful injury, and it took a lot out of me to get over it. I was very angry because the way that it happened, I felt that it was somebody that was not thinking or of my well-being, um, and kind of mindless rolling. So I was angry at the person that I was rolling with at that moment. And I let it go because it's a 50-50. But at that moment, I was not looking at it that way.
it was 100 them.
It was 100% zero. That's what I was looking at. And so I was really angry. And I remember just thinking, like, what is the use? I have two kids, I have a job, I had to, had to get up tomorrow morning and clean the house and take care of the kids and drive kids around. And why am I even putting myself in this situation? And I didn't go through that injury gracefully. Went through that angry. um and I remember Amal Amal Easton is my professor, and I think he could sense how upset I was over the whole thing. And he called me one day, asked me how I was. I was like, fine. I was just like completely,
Fine. The-
completely
but not fine. Not
attitude.
at all. Yeah, not fine at all.
He got a full blown Dominican attitude. But I had to admit he's really good at taking it. and and he said something that just stuck with me. To this day, stuck with me. And he said, the only way that you should quit, if you choose to, I cannot tell you to quit or not to quit. What I can tell you is that the only way I will feel okay with you quitting is if you find something that you love so much that you won't miss jujitsu. And that really cut through a lot of my attitude.
It's like, I guess,
It's
yeah.
like, why does he know this?
It's like, oh, man,
It's just like that childish kind of like holding on to your
stubborn.
ego, whatever it is, and then somebody's just cutting through it.
So,
And when he said that, it really stuck in my mind. Like, if you're gonna quit, it's not about the other person. It's not about the academy. It's about you. Do you find something that you love so much that you just not gonna even miss jujitsu, that you just won't even care? And I just, it just really, to this day, really, I still think about it
that's
when I have those low moments.
so he cut through. Sometimes just a little bit of wisdom cuts through our stubbornness. Because like I can say R because I'm also just stubborn as you are. But okay, and you said that you couldn't train for 6 months, correct?
Yeah, I couldn't move my knee. It was I really had to take a break for 6 months and let it heal. And even when I went back, I was, it was iffy at times.
Yeah.
Um, so my husband was great. He's a personal trainer, and he really has studied the body. So he kind of helped me get full range of motion, and but we went slowly at it, and my knee's perfectly fine now. But and I think I owe it mostly to him, um, that he made me take the time and do exercises that I didn't want to do, and
All right.
rehab it.
Hey, it's always good. It's always good to have that backup, especially if he knows what in the heck he's doing. So, like, after, and that was like blue or purple belt, and
Purple belt. I'm not completely sure.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I think you were covering.
I think it was purple belt. I'm almost sure that was purple.
Okay, so you got back in, you got your purple belt, you worked your way through it, and like Mr. Professor Easton was like I'm probably having like that's a really good question. What do I like more than jujitsu? And it's not very much. Not sleep. That's about it.
But he also told me, I know that time, but along the way, is to have all the things that I like too. Um, so when I was down and out, I will have all the interest,
Yeah.
and I thought that was very important because I see so many people that this is it, and and but I remember him telling me to like have all the interest, have all the things, do all the things, um, because inevitably it's gonna be a time that you know jiu-jitsu is gonna be down, so you have to find joy somewhere else.
That sounds. Hey, that sounds very very wise. Um, and it took you probably about 6 months, and then probably, I'm guessing probably another 6 months to a year to mentally get over being injured. Because most of the people I've heard to being injured, I haven't been injured. Luckily, everything around me is made of wood. I'm like, if I get injured, I'm gonna be pissed. But okay, you got your purple belt. Do you remember when you got your brown belt?
Yes, I got my brown belt 2016.
So from 2016, you were probably back into the groove and all the good stuff. So you got your. I remember you said you got your black belt when Say that one more time because I think
2019.
2019. So you were a brown belt for 3 good years, and that sounds about right. I'm like, I'm gonna be a brown belt forever. Um, I feel like I've been a purple belt forever, but I like this is the first belt that I've just had fun. Like it's just the first book. So yeah,
Purple belt's it's a long time belt.
yeah.
I
So
think it was
of all of your belts so far, which belt do you think was the most fun?
I think purple belt was both. Purple belt was the most fun and the least fun.
It was like the worst and the best at the same
It
time.
was yes, I think it was just like forever. And I didn't have any like want or need to move on to the next belt. Like I didn't really I never felt like I was chasing the brown belt at that point. Like I really just just felt like it was forever, but it was okay.
Yeah.
But it was definitely lowest points and highest points. It was all there. I like if I really look back, I hardly remember brown, but I sure remember purple.
Yeah. I as a purple belt, speaking for all purple belts, I'm like purple for me has been the most fun. Well, mine has various reasons. It's more than one reason, but I think number one, you get things, you understand concepts at this point. You really can you can self teach almost at this point. You like not. I still need my black belts. Don't leave me. But I feel like at purple belt you get I can predict what, especially white belts. I already know what they're gonna do. I'm like you can bait them a little bit. It's like, hey, this arm, and you're in my guard, and there's this arm that you can Kimura. Please, I I'm just leaving it out there. I see what you do with it. Just here, and I take their back, stuff like that. But long story short, because I know me, and this is an interview with you. For me, purple belt has been the best one thus far because number one, it's the first belt that I could just be purple. I could just be the belt. Like I understand what's going on, and again, when I get my Hot Mess Chronicles together, since I get my upstairs together, I'll start recording that, and then you can see why my white belt and my blue belt was like, it was miserable. It was kind of a miserable existence, and this is the first time my entire jujitsu career that I've just been happy. Like my purple belt was happy. Like you had yours like right in the middle. Mine was all at the front end, thank God. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But you did purple belt was your happiest slash most miserable because of the injury, and then you got brown belt because brown belt seems like a big blur. You received your black belt in 2019. Do you remember the day that you received your black belt and how that went?
Yes. That's November 2nd of 2019, I believe. I got a phone call from Amal Easton and said that I was getting my black belt to be at the ceremony because we have a big ceremony and I of promotions, but the black belts are not announced to everybody. It's kind of like a surprise to everybody else, but they want you to be there, so you need to know. Um, Professor Easton gave the speech. They have a little speech before you get a black belt, and it was a really sweet speech about the how hard, not how hard, but all that you put into it, especially being a female and being smaller than everybody else. And I'm 5'2", 120 pounds, so it is it's a whole different world, and it's a whole different type of persistence. When you were saying how you bait people, I was like, yeah, sometimes I don't.
But then again, I'm also 5'5" and 170 pounds, so like
and that's what I was laughing, and I was thinking like, well, sometimes I just don't because
yeah, I can bait people because we're about the same size. Like you
yeah,
will,
it could go really south for me.
yeah.
It depends. So I definitely with the size and all that, I'm definitely more aware of what could go wrong for me.
Yeah.
Um, so he gave a really nice speech, and I remember that moment. And I always tell people that what a black belt, receiving your black belt does is it buys you 24 hours of self-esteem. You use 24 hours, you're like, yeah, heck yeah, and bomb. And then that's it.
Yeah,
And then you're like back to reality.
it's like,
um, yeah, you're like, yeah. And then you're like, oh. So you have a, some people I guess longer, but 24 hours self-esteem is what got me. And then you go through a process of imposter syndrome of, am I really a black belt? I still feel it sometimes, and like, do I really know anything? Do I really, it is a roller coaster of emotion sometimes. Taking a break for COVID and then coming back, and then having to like build your cardio, build your muscle memories and stuff like that. It is interesting. I went to Dominican Republic for a couple of weeks not long ago, and coming back is just like, oh God, you know, going from sea level to mountain.
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you
The
know,
air is much thinner. Whereas I bet you when you went to the Dominican, if
I
you
was full of energy.
it's like great, I can breathe. Or yeah, I was like,
Yeah, I could go. Then you come back, you're like, oh God, my body's breaking. I can't
breathe.
breathe. Going back to the mat. So it's and then telling myself like this is why. Like because you just go directly to I suck. To well, you just can't breathe. Not much you can do when you can't breathe.
Yeah, that's one of those numbers where like, and I hate to keep bringing it back to me, like I'm not interviewing you, but like,
The conversation, I like it.
because I've been to Mexico and they have high places and low points. We were on a plateau; it's way higher in sea level than like here in Louisville. Like there is it's a plateau. It's not a mountain, but it's really high up. And I remember like trying to jog. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't breathe. And I can only imagine how much worse it is being in the Rocky Mountains, where it's like you're really high up, and then like I like if you were in good physical condition in the Rockies, I guarantee you once you went to the Dominican, you ran, you like I can my breath, I can breathe. This is great. Because I remember when I was in the plateaus, I would try to run and I would be like 3 steps. I'm like, and then when we went to Puerto Vallarta down there, and I ran on the beach, I was like, "Oh my god, I felt like FloJo. It was great. I was like, I was flying, and I was like, oh, sea level. So for you, it's probably 10 times worse because you're in the Rocky Mountains. Like you're in the mountains, and then you go to like
Yeah,
sea
when I
level.
went to the Caribbean, it was just like when I was in the Dominican Republic, I was like full of energy and I could go forever and do this and do that and not be tired. And I really didn't feel tired. And then coming back, and I was going back to the mat, especially like, oh, I want to do this. And my body's like, no, we know I'm not moving. Good
Like
for you if you want to do that.
like you would like to do that. However, you won't be doing that.
Doing that. I'm like, you can do it. Your body is
Yeah.
not doing it. So yeah, so it is, so getting over those little humps, like, yes, Millie, this is where you are. Just it's okay. It's not gonna be like that forever. Just keep going, just keep moving. So it's a lot of mental work too.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be mental work. I feel it's always going to be a mental work, but at this point, like at black belt, like it's the mental. You're now just now being prepared for the mental work. It I wouldn't. I'm like I'm not even saying I'm prepared because like 8 years is nothing compared to 13. Like you just oh my goodness, I cannot imagine.
It's
I
interesting.
can imagine 13 years, but I can't imagine 13 years. That's a weird statement, but
Well, my black belt has been interesting because I got it around November. I know it was November 2019, and then COVID hit a few months later. So then I had a year and a half around that, that I was a black belt, but I wasn't on the mat
So yeah, you
consistently. So it's being like, yeah, I got it in 2019, but I still like
a bit of
I wasn't on the mat.
yeah.
So it's been a different experience to just that aspect, that it makes you feel a little bit like iffy, like I haven't been really doing jujitsu consistently through the pandemic. So
And here's my question for you: When did you guys start consistently coming back onto the mats?
I think the academy, I mean, they kept kept having classes and they had little pods and people were training, but it was just too much because you couldn't train with anybody else, but just with a few people in your little pod. And then, because if one person got it, then everybody was out. It was trying to, trying to contain. I think the academy went back. I can't really even tell you. I know I myself went back a couple times and out. It is such a blur. Just this time just being like a blur, but I think it was a year and a couple months. So be like in the summer that I start going back. So
This summer?
yeah, this summer.
Ooh, yeah, because we were kind of off and on for like that first from like March to like June. We were
Still
off.
kept training. I just chose not to.
Okay, just because you have
Yeah, the academy kept going. They shut down for a few. The academy, to me, just didn't work because I couldn't like get a pot that I was,
you could
consistent with.
yeah.
And then, my husband trained people, so I didn't want to be exposed because if I expose him, then our business would be shut down. There were all these different layers to it. So I personally didn't choose to train, but there were people that were, and this has been the hard thing going back because some people didn't stop. So you
They've,
stopped, but they didn't.
they've gotten better. You gotta stay where you were, and it's like that's
Yeah,
that,
and then they were cardio, their cardio or the way they moved, they were fine,
yeah.
and I'm like coming back like, oh my God, I can't breathe.
You said,
Yeah, just get off of me now, please.
like tap,
Karen, you win. Tab, you win. Just leave me alone.
tap, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah, like some of my first roles, that's what it was reduced to. Like, just breathe. Just don't die on the mat.
It's like somebody rubbing your back, like you'll be okay. It'll be okay. You're like,
Yeah, you're in the corner crying.
oh my goodness. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end with this last question. I always ask this question. You have been doing this for 13 years. Like again, I can't imagine. I can imagine myself in about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can imagine myself in 5 years, but I can't imagine myself in 5 years. I don't even know what to do with that thought. But as a black belt that has been training for 13 years, what would be the piece of advice you would give women who are starting out, who really, well, you gave good advice to the white belts. Just don't, just survive. That's your advice for white belts. Just don't die.
Survive and even enjoy the just surviving. Just
Yeah,
don't compare yourself to anyone.
yeah. But for like blue belts, purple belts, people who have been into it might be having a little bit of trouble. Like you already gave a lot of good advice, but I'm gonna ask the question anyways, just to kind of to build your brain of all of its black belty goodness. What would be the one piece of advice you would give women in jiu-jitsu starting out anywhere, that whether it be black women, whether it be just women in general, just what you feel on your heart, what would you say, this is what you should do? Like what advice would you
I
give?
would say two things come to mind. One is build your tribe. I mean, I don't think I would have had survived or made it here without um, my support system of other women And of course, there's men that support me through my journey, but having a fellow teammate as a woman that know exactly how it feels to be a female on the mat, because there's gonna be low points, and that only another woman will understand. And having for me, it's Professor Heather, Professor Sherry, Professor Julie. They have been women that are black belts, but they came through the ranks with me. Heather was definitely more advanced, always in but they, those moments that you just don't want to be here, you want to be somewhere else, and to have those friendships that, yeah, we get together outside the mat. They know my family, they know my struggles, they know, you know, everything and anything about me. They feel for me, they celebrate with me, not just on the mat, but just in life. It has been one of the main reasons that I became a black belt. I have the support of my husband and my kids, but you need that extra oomph. So find a tribe that understands you and gets you, and that you don't have to prove that yourself to, because they just know your heart. So that would be my number one advice. And the second thing that comes to mind, I told you last time we have the interview, was I always the Bhagavad-Gita is one of the books that I really like. And one of the saying that always stuck with me, and I use it for everything in my life, is you're entitled to the work, but you're not entitled to eat fruit. So basically, you're entitled to come to the mat, work hard, you know, just give it your all, but you're not entitled to the belt, you're not entitled to winning competitions, you're not entitled to anything else. So if you take the stress out of getting something and just enjoying the process, your jujitsu journey is going to be a lot better and a lot more enjoyable, because it's going to be for your own sake. It's not going to be about what anybody else think, or to be praised, or to be validated by anybody else but yourself. So if you learn to enjoy the work, whatever comes from it is just gonna be secondary, and then you're really gonna be able to celebrate it as as something that just came naturally, but not something that you during your work were pursuing, because it just brings a lot of stress if you do. So I think that those two things are gonna be my main um, uh, advice to anyone that is going through the ranks, and maybe having lows and high points through it. Um, so I think I will stick with those two.
Well, I can't add anything to that because pretty much those are the two things that have kept me in jujitsu, even though my journey hasn't been injuries or anything like that, but it's been especially those first 5.5 years was a rough road up. And those two things are the exact two things that have kept me in for as as long as I've been in. And also that's what I'm trying to do with Black Women Black Belt, is just to create a conversation, a dialogue with women of color, especially black women, that yeah, this is for us. This is what we are good at this. This is, you have people that you can talk to, and like that's kind of my whole point. So other than that, Millie, it has been so good talking to you twice. The first time it was a hot, crusty mess, and it was just you, and it looked real police interviewee looking. It was bad. It was bad. Thank you for talking to me again, and hopefully I'll get to come to Colorado and train with you guys. That would be great. You and
That would be awesome.
that would be awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and just say see you later, and like thank you, and thank you so much. All right. Take care.
You, Nicole. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I feel very fortunate that you reached out, and just talking to you and just feeling your vibe is really a cool thing for me. There's some people I connect with and others I just don't. But you're one of those people that just there's a connection right away, and I really enjoy it.